I suppose we don't really talk very often about the ways subtly the conversations we have together about the Bible are affecting me in my social life. But they do, because we go through the Bible together, and there are little things that pop that we talk about for several days in a row, or themes that we talk about for weeks or even months in a row. It just keeps coming up. And that stuff gets in my system. You remember when you used to play Tetris when you were a kid? And if you played long enough, then you'd look at the world and the buildings. You'd be like, I would squeeze that in right there. You'd look at some desks or the way cars are parked. And you're like, no, you got to rotate that. Yep. There you go, lady. Yep. Right in there. Oh, great. Yeah, you parked that one. That's a 3-liner. You just start to think that way. Your brain gets programmed. And I've got a bunch of stuff like that coming out of our conversations together. I remember back when I was working on Matthew, and we were talking about the later parts of Jesus' life, and people would say things to him, and he had this habit of replying to the true statement they said that they meant to be evil or critical of him, but like it was accidentally true. It was kind of by your own words. And he would say something to the effect of, well, you have said it is so. I started implementing that with my friends and my family whenever they would say something that is true, even if it was in kind of a jokey way. I just, well, you have said it is so, and just leave it at that. And some of my friends catch it and some of them don't, but I have a good time with it. So that's been introduced by, Jesus, the guy for whom the religion is named. That's been introduced into my everyday parlance. And then most recently, I've added a new thing to, I guess, how I communicate now because of the influence of Haman and Xerxes, people you really want influencing you deeply on a daily basis. But over the last week or so, whenever my kids come to me and they really need an answer on something, but it really isn't that big of a deal, I'm like, all the things you're proposing would be fine. Any of these outcomes would be great. That is totally cool. I don't want to own the final decision, whatever, but I understand that you kids can't move forward without my authority behind whatever decision you make. I just take off my wedding ring and hand it to them or hold it out to them. They haven't taken it yet. And I'm like, there, just go. This is my signet ring. You have issue the edict. Make it so. That's going to be great. And I think they get it. I don't know if that's actually how you're supposed to use the Bible, but it's rubbing off on me in that way. But as I look back on this Esther chapter 3 situation and the handling of Xerxes' authority and the edict that ensues, I'm reminded that this might be a dangerous practice I need to reconsider, because when you tell people they can make a decision with your name, in your name, and with your authority, they might say dumb things. And I'm just breaking down the elements here as I'm looking at this afternoon of Haman's decree that he wrote in the king's name. And I think it merits one more conversation, because it is stunning what Haman presumed to do with Xerxes' indifference. I mean, really, he repackaged Xerxes' indifference toward Haman's request as though it were Xerxes' insistence, as though Xerxes felt very strongly about these things. So bear in mind, in Esther chapter 3, the conversation that happened is Haman goes to Xerxes and says there's a certain people, he doesn't even say which ones, and they're scattered all over the place, and their customs are weird, and they're different than other people, and they don't obey the king's laws. Now, at no point is Xerxes like, could you give me some specifics on that? What laws aren't they obeying? There's no specific reference whatsoever. It's just a lazy, broad, general accusation. And then he comes to a conclusion and tells the king how he ought to feel about it. It's not in the king's best interest to have them around anymore. So if you're cool with it, let's just issue a decree to destroy them, and I'll pay you a whole bunch of money. Does that sound good? And then literally all Xerxes' side of the conversation is, in all of this, is that he takes off his ring, which I'm now physically doing, and he hands it to Haman, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. And he's like, yeah, keep the money. Do with the people as you please. That's the whole conversation as we have it presented. Not much, not a lot of careful strategic thought, but this is how Haman represents that conversation, holding the king's signet ring to everybody else. Note the contrast. Starting in Esther 3:13, dispatches were sent by couriers to all the king's provinces with the order to destroy, kill, and annihilate all the Jews, young and old, women and little children, on a single day, the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. A copy of the text of the edict was to be issued as law in every province and made known to the people of every nationality so they would be ready for that day. Remember, Xerxes officially, in this quick little impromptu, not very attentive meeting with Haman, signed off on, I guess you can punish a people group if you think it's best. Whatever, cool. But to his empire and all of his subjects, this is what it looks like Xerxes said. And might I just offer a little bit of criticism of the writing style here? I mean, Haman, what are you doing? Destroy, kill, and annihilate. I feel like any of those could take the place of the other two, right? You destroy somebody, at least in this context, I think everybody would mean like, okay, I guess that means kill them. Annihilate, I think of that as definitely mean kill and destroy. So, I mean, it's just a tremendous amount of emphasis. Like, he's really getting this driven home. I mean, it sounds like the kind of thing that maybe a young boy would say when he's working on the art of smack talk, playing a video game on the internet. Like, come on, Team Blue, let's go destroy, kill, and annihilate them. And then, no, he doesn't really have any peers to hold him linguistically accountable to be like, come on, Craiglin, that's a little bit redundant. It just, I guess that's just kind of the stuff that you say. So that doesn't strike me as very impressive. But he does go out of his way, sort of Anakin Skywalker ranting psychotically to young Natalie Portman, name Padme Amidala in the Star Wars movies, about how he killed all the sand people, young and old, women and little children. So he made it pretty dang clear in the previous sentence that we're going to kill them. You're going to destroy, kill, and annihilate all the Jews. But then he wants to make it even more clear that all the Jews means all the Jews, young and old, women and little children. And then we're going to do the whole thing on one day. So Haman's making it clear, as everyone will understand it as being Xerxes is making it clear, that we don't want this thing stretched out over like a week. We want one bold night of action. This whole dang thing needs to go down real quickly. Everybody in the empire is just going to need to take the day off, national holiday, and you're just going to need to go kill the young, old, women, little children, all the Jewish people. That's what you got to do. And then, of course, he makes sure to emphasize that we're going to plunder their goods. And I imagine this is the incentivizing part of the edict, that everybody's like, well, what do we get out of this besides not killed? And how's Xerxes going to know, half a world away over here, whether or not we made sure to kill at least one Jew? Got to get one of them. How will Xerxes ever know that? Maybe some people were like, oh, I don't really want to do that. I think I might not kill any Jews because of how that's murder and genocide. And I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me or my people. Maybe some people were thinking that, but maybe if some of them were a little bit morally on the fence, I don't know. Maybe I'll just get a stick and run around and raise my arms and yell. Maybe I'll kick over a trash can that day, or burn some paper outside, yell some remarks. Maybe if they were on the fence like that, thinking that to themselves, maybe they get to the end of the edict and they're like, oh, we get to plunder? Like armies get to do? Where you just go and you fight some people and you win a battle where the outcome was not known in advance, and then you just get to take all of their stuff and nobody can stop you? Oh, wow. That might be an opportunity to really change my family's fortunes moving forward. I mean, I was 55-45 no before I got to the end of the edict, but I mean, if there's plunder and it is an order of the king, I mean, maybe I could fudge a little bit on my moral standards and participate in this thing. Maybe that's what the thinking of Haman was in terms of how he wrote this. I mean, certainly the theme of plunder is a very interesting one here, because when we're first introduced to the Agagites, the Amalekites, when we're way back in the desert wandering coming out of Exodus, their motivation for picking off the Jewish people when they were vulnerable and out and wandering in the desert was they could plunder all of their stuff. Plunder seems to be at the heartbeat of the tension between the two, with the Amalekites trying to seize the opportunity to kill the Jews and take all their stuff 1,000 years earlier. And now here we are again, having come full circle, even though this is technically an edict of the Persians, who theoretically have nothing to do with this age-old fight. It's actually an edict of an Agagite, a Malachite, and it's just an unsettled score. It's more of the same. Maybe the attentive reader is supposed to catch that and be like, wow, this wouldn't be going on if when the Jews were told to fight back and defeat these people once and for all, they'd actually done it, instead of the way Saul blew that and tried to preserve them for the sake of milking them for tribute or additional plunder down the road. So maybe they would read into that as well. But whatever the case, we're just talking about the edict here today. And what I would say is this: if I'm Xerxes, I'm honestly a little bit irritated and a little bit embarrassed at the quality of the edict. It's redundant. It's churlish. It sounds childish and competitive, like weak stick smack talk. It sounds oddly vengeful. It leaves a lot of questions in the mind of the person who reads this edict. Like, if it's important enough to genocide these people in 11 months from now, and we already know that, why aren't we doing it right now? And also, why is whoever wrote this so mad? There's nothing even in here that says what they did. The whole thing, you really think that I'm going to commit genocide just because you offered me money? But on the other hand, as we read along, we'll discover that there were some people who wouldn't have noticed any of the problems with this edict, who just hated the Jews so much that they were like, awesome. Yeah, I don't care how bad your writing is. I don't care how dumb the plan is. If you're telling us that we get to kill this people group we don't like and take all their stuff, we're in. Yeah, I don't know. I guess if I gave somebody my signet ring and they barfed out slop, this poorly put together, put it in every language and put my name on it like I wrote it, I might think twice about giving people my signet ring and permission to write in my name in the future. But that didn't occur to him initially, the king that is, because all the couriers went out and then the king and Haman, they just sat down and got a drink. But everybody else, they were bewildered because this is held out as being some really important thing. But we just looked at the edict carefully and it really doesn't make a lick of sense. Hopefully yesterday you caught my invitation to Rapid City, South Dakota on September 25th for a great big giant 1,000th episode party that we're going to have. We filled up a bunch of those rooms that we have reserved at that cool downtown hotel where I'm going to be staying, the Alex Johnson Hotel. So if you are thinking about coming, you might want to make a reservation over there. Remember to tell them that that is under the TMBH room block. But either way, whether it makes sense to stay at the Alex Johnson Hotel with us or not, I'm just hoping that some of you can make it work with your schedule to come out and hang out. I am in the mood to take internet things and do more of it in human space. I miss people. Feels like we're all very distant from each other these days. And I know this is weird and maybe even not advisable per the best practices of how you do podcasts, but I don't care. It feels so one-sided, and I just really like to hang out together a little bit. So thanks to everybody who signed up. Hopefully more of you will have the chance to do so. Jeff's got the link down there in the show notes, but it's thetmbh.com/event. And that link will get you to a place with the details about the 1,000th episode event on the 25th of September, as well as the TMBH Pastors mini conference that we're doing on the 26th, the next day, for anybody who's involved in ministry stuff and wants to hang out with me and talk about that. Wait, one more thing. I forgot to tell you. Jeff Foote is going to be able to be there as well. So you're going to get to hang out with Jeffrey, who does all the music and everything, is a wildly talented and likable person to be around. So that'll be a fun connection to make as well. All right, now that's it. I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's do this again soon.